Hello there, my name is Jaz and welcome back to another video. This is a second channel video discussing some of the backrooms stuff. I will be covering 3 topics today, one of them being the commonly asked questions about the backrooms, such as more levels and etc. like that. The second one will be about a tutorial on how you can make your own backrooms levels, as people have been requesting that. And the third thing will be about how you can create your own texture pack for the skin stealer so you can have your own friends' skins in-game. I will not, however, be covering the sounds for the texture pack. I am unsure how to do that. So first things first, I want to just cover a couple of recently asked questions. Number one is, will you update the mod? That's a great question. At some point in future, I may, but I'm currently taking a creative break to work on other projects and other videos. I am very much burnt out of the backroom stuff, and I do not intend on adding any other levels in the near future. There is a possible chance that I upgraded the mod to 1.21 at some point, but for now it is in 1.20.4 with the 5 levels that it currently has, and that will not be changing anytime soon. Sorry to disappoint everyone, but I do not have the time, resources, energy, money, or just will to make anything else on this mod for the time being. I got some other stuff I want to do. I don't want to be stuck as the backrooms guy forever. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's have a look at how you can make your own thing. I will give you a step-by-step before I go through this. I want you to make sure that you actually are aware of how structured blocks, jigsaw blocks, and work like that, and also a bit of basic information on modding. For example, I would like you to go and watch some of Corp and Joe's tutorials. That's a good idea. And also this other guy called Konya. I don't promote it as much as Corp and Joe, but he does the datapack stuff that I showcase in my videos. That's how I learnt, and it's a really good resource for learning how to do things like structures, and especially jigsaw blocks. That's how I learned how to do those. Anyhow, I'll give you first a step-by-step on how this works in a basic form, which I kind of covered in the 2 videos, and I feel like I kind of explained enough that people could, in theory, work it out on their own, but here's a more fleshed out version. Basically, what you're currently seeing here is the individual rooms that have a chance to spawn inside of the backrooms. You can see here, this is the 2 sections for the pitfalls. That will summon there and that will summon below, and that's the actual fall itself. Here's just some random corridors. Here's the template that I work off to start with when I start building up the maze parts. Here's the top half of the crate rooms, and the bottom halves are over here. So you can see there's a bunch of different segments. Anything with this kind of block on top is the stuff that I will be covering today. I'm not going to be covering offshoots like these kinds of things, because they work a little bit differently, where they basically summon a extra structure underneath it or above it using a jigsaw block, which I'm sure you can work out in your own if you get a basic understanding of those. That's similar with the monsters. These guys are just summoned using jigsaw blocks on the floor with another jigsaw block pointing upwards inside of the structure, and they will connect and they will summon a monster. Anyhow, basically these rooms right here, they will connect up when I summon the structure, and I'll show you how that works in a sec. So I'm now going to summon the structure to show you how it works. Take note of where it generates from. You'll see it started at the center, which is approximately here. So basically how this is working is that this central area is one of those rooms that we discussed over there, and this will spawn in and it will summon a second room outside of it in a big diamond shape until we end up with this. So this large, about 200 by 200 area is a singular backroom structure, which means that, yes, technically, that means that my backrooms is not actually infinite. The actual structure itself is not infinite, but the generation inside of the custom dimension is. So you can see here, this is a single structure, and basically how I made it inside of the dimension is that it has this single structure here, and then it grabs another one, and it just kind of plonks it down next to it, like so they connect up. And this is actually really simple to do, so I'll go through that in a second. But that's basically how the entire backrooms generates. It just keeps doing that, repeating that process, summoning the structure over and over in a way that it eventually looks like it's infinite. And if you summon the structure close enough, then they won't have any gaps between them and the walls will mesh in, so you basically just have an infinite maze. Now this is not the easiest way or the most efficient way of doing this. There's other ways like maze algorithms and that kind of thing that make a definite maze that you can actually get through. There's a good chance that in the summoning of these structures, it will actually summon with walls entirely surrounding the player, or even worse, the player will be inside of a wall when they go through the backrooms, meaning that it's not a foolproof way of doing it. But it does work, and it was easy enough and worked enough that I believe it made a successful mod. This also makes it so it's completely random on the inside. You don't have to use a preset structure. The structures will randomize their rotation and when they're spawned, meaning that it will be different for every single world. Similar to how the trial chambers work in 1.21. Anyhow, let's make a new fake level so I can show you how this actually works in game. Right, so to start the structure before we get it generating around the world, we have to do a few things such as build it. I'm using these wall blocks here just as an example so you can see easily how it generates and etc, and also the differentiation between the wall blocks and also the ceiling and floor blocks. But you can really use any block here, it does not matter, or you can even use your own like I did in the original mod. I'll personally be filling out a 17 by 17 square, as that is an odd number allowing me to put jigsaw blocks in the middle. It doesn't really matter the size of it, it can be pretty much from anywhere from 3 blocks to 45, as long as it's a odd number that can have a structure block in the middle. Right, so now that we have this full area filled out, we can actually save the structure so we can use it in the structure files later. But I just want to say that right now, if you have not gone and learned how to do either modding or structure generation, you may want to go do that right now, because things are about to get very, very confusing, and I will not have the time to explain every single little detail. So I'm planning on you having enough knowledge to be able to follow along with what I'm saying. Anyhow, first things first, I want you to get this jigsaw block, which is a block that's been found inside of the operator utilities thing that can be turned on accessibility. And you want to go to here, so you want it to be crossing through the middle here like this, and across, and you want it to be pointing out just like so. Now make sure they are definitely pointing out with this line facing out that way, away from the structure, away from the center, otherwise it won't work and it'll be very, very messy. So there you go, that's how the jigsaw blocks will all sit, and we will configure those afterwards once we get the structures generating around the world. I'm also going to place down these yellow blocks to show where the walls would meet up if we would add those. So before we do anything with saving the structure block, we actually want to pull up this so we can make sure it's facing the right way. This being the x-axis and that being the z. So we can create that little box by going into the structure block, setting it down here into save mode, like so, setting the structure size to 1 by 1 by 1, and setting the relative position to 1 by 1 by 1. Then just press done, and the box will show where the structure block will save in the direction of. That's important because if, say, I put it over in that corner, then it'll save on that side of the structure rather than the correct area, which means we have to go to this corner and place the structure block just here. So before saving the structure, we have to go inside of here, set it to save mode, and then put in our mod ID, which in my case is going to be J's tests, because this is my test mod, semicolon, and then this is going to be the level backrooms test, so it's going to be level test _1, and we can press save. Now obviously this is not going to save the actual structure, but we do now have a structure file in the game. We can go back into the structure block, and then set the structure size to however big you made it, by how tall you want it, by again how wide it is, and then press save again. And obviously this is incorrect again because we still need to add the 1 and the 1 there to make sure it's correctly offset depending on how far away our structure block is from the actual structure itself. And I've pressed save. It is now in the correct dimensions and should be surrounding our structure completely. So yeah, that's the actual base structure itself. Now it's time to set up the generation and etc. Also, if you're struggling with the JSON files at any point to get the parameters going, you can head to this website here, which will give you a various list, there being the structure set, the structure itself, the template pool, all sorts of other stuff, and I'll leave that down in the description. This will pretty much give you all of the stuff you need accessibility to, and also presets for already in-game stuff if you want to copy and paste that kind of thing. So because this is entirely data generated, we're going to be using this area over here under the data folder and then my mod ID. First things first, we need a dimension, which will be J's tests level test. And this will be a super flat dimension that can be created with these lines of code right here. Feel free to copy these, you can just need to remove that and replace that with your mod ID, and you can replace that with whatever the name of your structure is going to be. Now you're probably looking up here and wondering what that is. That is the actual dimension type, which is a second JSON folder that can be found under this dimension type folder over here, which we need to create this. As long as it matches the same name as that, it doesn't really matter how it's named. Now to get the file set up correctly, we need these parameters here, which can either be taken from this website right here, or it can be data generated as shown in Corp and Joe's dimension tutorial, which I suggest you go and watch if you didn't understand any of what I just said. Next up, we have this structures folder here. Make sure if you don't have any of these folders, by the way, to add them as you go, name them as appropriately, and don't make sure they're not any different. So we're going to go structures, and then our mod ID, and then under that, the name of the structure, which is level test. And this is where the actual structure file itself is going to go. So to get there, we have to go to the world that we saved the file on, press edit, go to open world folder, and inside of here, we have to go to generated, the mod ID folder, structures, and then here is the structure file. So Control C, and then head back to your modding area, and Control V. And now we should have this file saved. So to get the structure spawning in certain biomes, we have to also add this tags folder here, which will have worldgen, biome, has underscore structure, and then the name of the structure here, which is level test. And outside of here, it'll have J's tests, which is my mod ID, and the name of the custom biome that I just made, which I'll show you how to make now. So to get your own custom biome, you have to make a worldgen folder, then to biome, and then to the name of the biome that you would like to make it. I've also made this level test as it will be only storing the level test structure. Inside of this, we have all of these different values, which has been copied over from the Minecraft void biome. If you don't know how to get these parameters, you can use this website right here, which is the biome generator, which will give you all of them, and you can use presets to find existing biomes, such as in my example, void. You press on that, and it has all the parameters right here that you can use, and you can copy them, paste them straight into your JSON file from down to this section down here. And then finally under the worldgen folder, we have these three folders just here. First of all, we're going to start off with the template pool, as this is the one that allows your structure to be summoned inside of the world by finding the file path for the actual file itself. So first of all, we're going to go template pool, then your mod ID, and then the name of the structure. Inside of there, I've got two versions which I'll cover soon. First of all, we have level test, which will allow you to summon the central part of the structure, and then level test extensions, which will allow you to summon the outer parts. This level test one here is where you would put the exit of your structure if you wanted to, as this will be the very middle of the structure before it starts to branch out. This file here will only be called inside of your structure area rather than inside of the jigsaw blocks. You can see up here I've got the name of the file location, and then down here inside of this element area we have jazz test, which is the mod ID, which will summon it into the data area, and then it'll push it down to jazz test again inside of the structures area, and then to level test down here, and then level test _1.mbt. Just make sure not to have the .mbt on the end, as that will mess it up. So this file path here will let it see inside of where the actual file is itself, so it can summon it in the world. Alternatively, this is the extensions area, and this up here will be copy and pasted into the jigsaw block later, meaning that this is the structure that we summoned outside of the central part of the actual middle of the structure. Basically, in the large grid, there is a single simple one in the middle, which is the original level test, and then everything else around it that's getting summoned is the level test extensions. This is the first room that gets summoned, and then this is the rest of the rooms that are inside of one single structure. Now, of course, it'll call to the same spot because they're actually just the same rooms, except I've just added an underscore extensions on the end so the jigsaw block knows to go here rather than here. This will make a bit more sense afterwards once we make the jigsaw block actually summon correctly. So once we've got the template pool finished, we can go to our structure folder and then go into a JSON file named after our structure. Double click on that, and you can see it will go into where the biomes are, as mentioned earlier, and also the start pool, which is the template pool down here. You want to link this with your mod ID and then the file paths, that being jazz tests right here, then to level test, and then to level test.json. And aside from this, just make sure to copy all these parameters and you should be good to go. So now that the structure is ready to be generated in the world, we can head over to structure set underneath the JSON file named after the structure once again, double click on that, and you can see here that it goes to a file path of the previous structure. Also up the top, you can put the unique seed for the generation of your structure and how rare you want it to be. This being how many chunks it is apart, and this being the kind of variation for it. The closer it is to this number, the closer it is to being a grid. Just make sure the separation doesn't go above the spacing, and you should be good to go. Personally, for my about 200 block by 200 block large structures, the 10 by 7 works pretty perfectly, and make sure there's no gaps inside of these structures when it generates infinitely. And aside from making sure that the dimension actually has a structure override to make sure it'll summon inside of the super flat world with your mod ID and then the name of the structure, you should be pretty good to head back into the game so we can make sure that the jigsaw blocks work. So let's restart Minecraft and get that going. So this here is a jigsaw block, and this is what the interface looks like, and pretty much what they try and do is once they get summoned inside of the world, they will try and look for another jigsaw block they can line up with like that, and they will try and summon another structure over here. So for us, we have to set up the parameters inside of these, and they will be all the same on all four sides. So like I said with the level test extensions earlier, this here is the thing that we're going to be copying inside of the jigsaw block. You want to copy all the stuff inside the quotation marks, like so, head over to Minecraft again, Control A, and then Control V, so make sure that it fills in all like that. Then the name of this is going to be your mod ID, then the name of the structure, and then extensions. You can copy and paste this one down in here so they're exactly the same. Pretty much this means that this is going to be the name of the block, and it's also looking for the exact same block, meaning that it can summon itself over and over. And then we're going to make sure this turns into something interesting so you can actually see where the jigsaw block started out. So this will just be diamond block. Of course, that can be anything to make sure that the floor is seamless. In this case, because my floor's carpet, I would also make it carpet. And then done. So that's one jigsaw block done, and we can go around and copy and paste all of these parameters into the same positions on all the other ones, like so. And once we have all the parameters in, we can go back over here, save it, go back to the world file, and drag and drop it back into where the structure file actually is. So in my case, we're going to head back here, copy and paste this, and then go back over here, into structure, up here, then Control V, OK, and overwrite. And now we should be able to reload Minecraft, and hopefully the structure will be able to be placed. So in theory, if this has worked correctly, we can go into a blank world, go /place, structure, jazz test, level test, and this should make not only the single room, but also several more of them around it. Look at that, that worked perfectly. So you can see this is the initial room over here, the very middle of the structure. This would have summoned out in every single direction. So in theory, this means that if we also set up the generation system earlier properly for the biomes and dimension, we should be able to send ourselves to dimension using a command, and it should, in theory, be generating infinitely with this structure. So to send yourself to your custom dimension, you do /execute in, and then the dimension that you've created for yourself, run, teleport, and then the current coordinates. And if I press enter, hopefully we'll end up in that dimension without crashing. Supposedly. And it seems to have worked perfectly. Alright, let's fly up and see if this is infinite. Look at that. The dimension seems to be correctly generating, and you can even see where the structures overlap. So this in theory means that this structure will be summoned common enough via the 10 by 7 rule that it should not have any gaps anywhere, and it should line up close enough that the player will be able to just walk on forever. Now, of course, this is obviously not the only way of doing it. There's plenty of other ways, and I do suggest that you mess around with these parameters as much as you want, just to make sure you get the intended effect that you would like for your own structure, especially if you intend on using blocks that are bigger than 17 by 17 for each part of the room. But anyhow, that's pretty much how you get infinite generation in Minecraft. It's a little bit flawed. They're not exactly lined up or even in a grid, but it's good enough that it works. And that's all that's important, I suppose. Anyhow, I guess now we can work on the resource pack for the skin stealers, because I still need to do that. So pretty much to make a texture pack that will overwrite the skin stealers, you should be able to make a folder just like so. I've named mine skin stealer, and inside you need a pack.mc meta file that has this line of code in it, which is pretty much the pack format, and the description, which can be anything inside of this area. Then you need a folder called assets, inside of there the backrooms file location. Then inside of there, textures, then to go to entity, and then skin stealer. Inside of here, you can see there are 20 different skin stealer things that you can replace. These two at the start are simply here to help you set it up properly. So here's one of the example skin stealer files. As you can see, the face of the actual player on the skin model is kind of off. This is where the skin stealer's face will go. And you can get this from the skin stealer overlay texture file, which can be found inside of the same area. Pretty much you just got to copy and paste it into your skin. This can be any old skin here, and it can be placed there. As you can see, I've already moved the actual face of the skin up into the corner, but to be able to make it so your face will show up over the front of the skin stealer thing as like a little flappy bit, just move the face up and over into the corner like there, which it will not usually have as texture. And then grab this face and just put it right back here. That's how you create the correct model for the skin. Usually, obviously, your face will be right there, and there's usually a blank space here. Just make sure to swap that up into there. This will be your normal face, and this will be where the skin stealer's face goes. It's a bit weird, I know, but that's how I made it work, and it's not that hard to do. Then once you finish with this, obviously you just save it into the thing and replace any of the names of the files from skin stealer 0 all the way up to skin stealer 20. So these can be any texture at all, just make sure that the names are correct. To prove this, I'm just going to get a bunch of red and just completely scrap all over the Herobone skin to make sure that it'll show up in game, and save that. So now that we've messed up the skin so I can show it off in game, we have to go back to here, select those, send to compressed zip folder. In Windows 11 it's a little bit different, I'm sure you can work it out. I should be able to rename to that to skin stealer, enter. And now that we have Minecraft open with a mod, we can go to options, resource packs, grab this one over here from up here, drag it on down into Minecraft, yes, place the skin stealer pack over the top, don't mind that it's out of date, done. We should be able to head into the world, and I'll try and summon a skin stealer to see if it worked. Okay, so admittedly we got really unlucky, and got every other skin except for the Herobone skin, but as you can see, this one that we edited, it was all messed up until it changes skin, which happens in game. Oh my god. So yeah, that should let you do the texture pack, hopefully. Good luck with that, and I guess I'll see you next time. Make sure to subscribe to the main channel, not here, but if you're going to subscribe here as well, and follow the Twitch. Yeah, cheers. Hope this made any sense, and if it didn't, don't complain to me. It's not my problem. Bye.